Why is Canada suddenly getting really cozy with Europe? Well, it turns out being neighbors with Donald Trump isn't as easy as it sounds. In recent months, Canada has been quietly, and sometimes not so quietly, building new bridges across the Atlantic. Defense deals, energy agreements, digital partnerships. It's like a long-distance relationship that's actually working. And the reason, things with the US have been complicated. Tariffs, trade fights, even a bit of good old-fashioned political drama. So today, we're breaking down why Canada is turning toward Europe, what it means for the future, and yes, why some folks in Washington are not happy about it. Let's dive in. First, a little context. The Canada-US relationship has always been close. Some would say too close. We share the longest undefended border in the world, billions in trade every day, and a lot of cultural overlap. But under Donald Trump's return to power, things have gotten tense. Earlier this year, Trump brought back tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, as much as 50% in some cases, claiming it's about national security. Now, Canadians are pretty peaceful folks, but when you tell them their maple syrup and metal are a threat, yeah, that doesn't go over well. The Canadian government hit back with counter tariffs, restrictions on government contracts, and even threats to limit critical mineral exports. The rare stuff that goes into electric cars, batteries, and military equipment. And that's not all. Over in the US, some politicians and media personalities have revived the old 51st state joke, basically saying Canada's economy is so tied to America, it might as well be part of the United States. That didn't sit well in Ottawa. Canadian leaders, and a lot of ordinary people, saw it as a shot at their sovereignty. They don't mind being friendly neighbors, but nobody likes being treated like the backyard, and the tension kept building. In June, Canada introduced a 3% digital tax on US tech giants like Google and Amazon, part of a global push to make big tech pay its fair share. Trump's response: immediate outrage. He froze trade talks with Canada and threatened even more tariffs. He even accused Canada of siding with Europe and China. A bit of an odd couple, but you get the point. Faced with the risk of an all-out trade war, Canada put the tax on hold temporarily. But by then the message was clear. The US wasn't the reliable partner it used to be. And that's where Europe comes in. On June 23, 2025, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney flew to Brussels for a pretty historic moment: the signing of the Canada-EU Security and Defense Partnership. It's a big deal. The agreement covers joint defense projects, cybersecurity cooperation, space and maritime security, and crisis management. It also opens the door for Canadian companies to work with European defense programs, building everything from fighter jets to cyber systems. And that's not all. The deal includes plans for LNG exports, that's liquefied natural gas, and cooperation on critical minerals. Basically, Europe wants to reduce its reliance on Russian energy and Chinese minerals, and Canada is happy to help. Fun fact: Canada is actually the first non-European country to sign this kind of comprehensive defense partnership with the EU. Not even the US has done that. And as you can imagine, Washington wasn't thrilled. The Trump administration called the deal a slap in the face to North American unity. Trump himself tweeted, and I quote, "Canada can't have it both ways. Either you're with America, or you're with the failing EU." Now, whether or not you think Europe is failing, most experts agree. This was a pretty strong signal from Canada. Prime Minister Carney defended the move, saying, "This isn't about choosing sides. It's about protecting Canada's interests in an unpredictable world." Translation: if the US keeps picking fights, Canada's going to keep its options open. But it's not just about defense. Canada and Europe are also deepening cooperation on clean energy, AI and digital trade, cybersecurity, and environmental standards. This builds on agreements already in place, like the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, or CETA, and the Green Alliance, signed in 2023. And it makes a lot of sense. Europe wants stable, democratic partners with reliable energy and mineral supplies. Canada fits the bill perfectly. Plus, Canada recently pledged to boost its defense spending to meet NATO's 2% of GDP target by next year, and eventually reach 5% by 2030. That puts it in line with Europe's push for greater collective defense, especially with the ongoing war in Ukraine and global instability. So, why is all of this happening now? Simple: unpredictability. For Canada, relying solely on the US doesn't feel as safe as it used to. Between tariffs, trade disputes, and the 51st state talk, Canadians are realizing they need more than just one powerful friend. Europe, on the other hand, offers predictable trade rules, shared democratic values, and a real interest in building secure long-term partnerships. And the implications: Canada gets more leverage on the global stage. It becomes a more attractive supplier of energy and critical minerals to Europe. Canadian defense companies get access to new markets, and the country strengthens its position as a bridge between North America and Europe, not just a junior partner to the US. Of course, this doesn't mean Canada is turning its back on its neighbor. The US is still Canada's biggest trading partner, and the two countries share deep cultural and historical ties. But it does mean Canada is sending a message. We're friendly, but we're independent. And when things get rocky with the US, we've got other friends to call. In the end, it's all about options, and Canada's making sure it has plenty. Thanks for watching, and as always, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Is this a smart move by Canada? Is Europe the right partner? And what do you think this means for the future of North American relations? We'll be watching from both sides of the Atlantic.